listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Good afternoon, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Monday, August the 26th. I am your host, Michael Leva, flying solo today as we have a lot to talk about in the world. The Miami Dolphins. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We have some roster cuts. They slowly started on Sunday. Nothing new since then. Got some injury news, and we got some chatter on the offensive line. That's a topic I want to talk about, as well as the national media as we get closer here to the start of the Miami Dolphins 2024 season. But as always, before we start, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? Don't worry. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home. And yes, they will ship internationally as well. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. Also, before we start, a shout out for Dolphins Talk Extra. If you like this show, if you like all the free shows you get from myself, Tom, Ian, Josh, Aaron, Marissa, Jason, and all that stuff, those aren't going nowhere, but we have more. We have Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. It is bonus shows, extra shows, interactive shows, which are going to start up soon, where you, the listeners, can join us on podcast and tell us what you think and be part of the show. We have fantasy contests like Survivor Pools, Pick'em Leagues, Fantasy Football, where you can win really cool Miami Dolphins prizes and so much other stuff going on. We have a private message board. So, sometimes Twitter, Facebook, trying to have a rational conversation about anything is tough. We have a private message board that, you can have a normal conversation with someone about any topic and no one's going to jump down your throat. So check out patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. $3 a month or $5 a month, whatever one you want to pay. We have two tiers, but they're pretty much very similar. Check it out. And if you're a Dolphins fan and if you enjoy these shows, you really should be a part of Dolphins Talk Extra. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Okay, let's get to the news. Sunday, the Miami Dolphins started to trim their roster. They made two moves. Jody Fortson, the tight end, was let go. Dolphins have too many tight ends. We've been saying they're probably only going to carry 3 on the active roster, which will be Smythe, Jonnu Smith, and Julian Hill. You got Alec Ingold as a fullback who can line up a tight end, sort of like an H-back. That's really all you need. Jody Fortson, been hurt on and off the past couple of weeks, really didn't look great in training camp. Not much of a need for him. If he is brought back on Miami's practice squad, maybe great, but he was let go on Sunday. And then the big one from Sunday, as I kind of predicted, that the Miami Dolphins quarterback room and the competition between Mike White and Skylar Thompson would be a loser leaves town. Well, it was. And Mike White, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And I mean that with all due respect. Mike White was let go, and Skylar Thompson is now the new number 2 quarterback for the Dolphins. Now, there's a couple things here we got to break down. Number one, Mike McDaniel on Monday today at his media session said, he was vague about it, but he said, don't be surprised, or he wouldn't be surprised if Miami adds a third quarterback here in the coming days. And there's also been some rumblings from people I've been speaking to that Mike White might be brought back, because Mike White was going to make $3.5 million or so roughly. And I think there's like 1 point something million of dead money on the cap, which is there no matter what. If Mike White is not signed by another team, the Dolphins could bring him back at 10 cents on the dollar, essentially. Sign him for a much cheaper price and have him be the third quarterback. So Mike White's time in Miami might not be over, but it's over for now. And I actually do think another team will sign him. There's a lot of teams right now in this league with bad backup quarterback situations. Miami's one of them, mind you. But there's other teams in the same boat. And Mike White, as much as he didn't look good in this training camp and he's probably not a very good player, there's other teams who might have worse. So to them, Mike White might be a slight upgrade. So I think he'll probably sign with another team. But if not, do not be shocked if he is brought back by Miami here, either later this week or maybe after week 1, all depending on how they do it financially and stuff like that. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye. I hope, though, they go outside. I think, you need to add a third quarterback. I know Tua wasn't hurt last year. He played every game. That's great. That's the only time it's really happened ever for him in his career. That's the outlier. To think that will happen 2 years in a row, we can hope. We can think maybe he's learned something, how to get rid of the ball super quick, and he will avoid hits and he will start to stay healthy full seasons. That'd be great. But just to protect yourself, I think having a third quarterback who can, learn the offense, God forbid that moment's needed, because then, yes, Skyler moves up to the first string quarterback. Who's your number 2? You want to have someone there who you're not just signing on a Monday and like, okay, here's the playbook. Let's start to teach you. I mean, that never works out well. Again, I know if Tua is out for a long period of time, the season's over. I get it, but just you want to cross your T's, dot your I's, probably have a third quarterback on the roster. I would go someone a little bit younger who might have a future here. Skylar Thompson won this job. Skylar Thompson will not be here next year this time. Skylar Thompson's also not a good quarterback. He was just better than Mike White this summer. So we'll see if the Dolphins add a third quarterback. In some injury news, Mike McDaniel confirmed today at his media session that Bradley Chubb, Isaiah Wynn, and Cameron Good will start the year on PUP, meaning they have to miss the first 4 games of the regular season. Not a shock with Chubb. We knew this was coming. I think Chubb's probably going to miss about the first 8 weeks, honestly, if not more. So with Chubb, we kind of knew. Cameron Good as well. He injured his ACL, I believe, week 18 versus the Bills. So he's in the same boat as Chubb. And honestly, with Cameron Good, if Muhammad Kamara, if Chop Robinson, if Agba, if Jaylen Phillips are playing good, if Chubb comes back, I don't think we'll see Cameron Good on the field this year for Miami. The only way he comes back, if Quentin Bell is playing well, the only way he comes back is if some of those guys get hurt over the course of the year, or they're just not playing good and we need someone to sort of step in and be better. But if those guys played what we think they will play to expectations level, not play above expectations, not play below, just play to expectations, I don't think we see Cameron Good on the Dolphins this year. I think at some point they'll just slide him over to IR. Isaiah Wynn's the frustrating one, and it's frustrating for many reasons. We know, and I'm about to talk about this next more in depth, Miami's offensive line, especially the interior, a little bit of the hot mess express. Let's just call it what it is. And they had all offseason to sign a couple guys here. Not, maybe not pay someone like $100 million. We get that. But pay somebody a little something to maybe upgrade right guard, left guard, center, whatever. And they did sign a center. But they did it, and they chose to re-sign Wynn. And Wynn got hurt at the end of October last year in the game versus Philly with a quad injury. And, quad injury, you think get hurt end of October, you should be ready by training camp next year. That's more than enough time. Well, apparently, and the Dolphins knew this, that the quad injury was more on the severe side than your typical run-of-the-mill quad injury. So they re-signed Wynn, had him penciled in to be a starter, essentially, at left guard. And now he's going to miss the first 4 games of the year with a quad injury that, it's at least the first 4 games of the year. This could go on much longer than that if he's not rehabbed yet. And I know he's working hard and he's trying to get back on the field. No one's knocking him. And no, he's hurt. He's hurt. It is what it is. If he had a severe quad injury, not his fault. I think the frustrating part is, why did the Dolphins, sign him, bring him back when this offensive line has been problematic in years past? Specifically guard and center have been problematic for this team in years past. And you were thin when it came there with roster depth, when you already lost Connor Williams, you already lost Robert Hunt. Why are you bringing an injured guy back? Well, now he's going to miss, September at least, maybe who knows how much more. That's the frustrating one of the 3. We knew about Chubb. We knew about Cameron Good. The Wynn one, it's just been sort of, as a fan, kick to the you-know-where that he's not going to be ready. But what, again, not his fault. Why did the organization feel the need to bring him back? It's just head scratching to say the least. But I'm going to talk about the offensive line more here in a minute. Mike McDaniel was asked about Odell Beckham Jr., and he said a lot of words, didn't give a real answer, said to be determined, but it doesn't sound like it's close, I think. I mean, look, he might be playing a game of possum here and throwing everyone for a curveball. Maybe Odell Beckham's on the practice field, Wednesday or something. Who knows? But it doesn't sound likely, I want to say. Even when Tua was asked after practice when he met with the media, he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that, he's never had a practice rep before with Odell Beckham, and before they play together in a real game, they got to get some practice reps in. It's not like, again, your game's on Sunday, Odell practices for 1 or 2 days prior to the game, we're good to go. At least a week or 2 or 3 of practice, and Odell Beckham's still not practicing as of the moment I'm recording, and Mike McDaniel said to be determined. We've heard all offseason, it's minor. They knew about this when they signed him, all this stuff, but I don't think anyone thought it would go this long till the end of August. I think most people thought, well, he'll miss the first few weeks of camp, show up midway through, won't play in a preseason game, then he'll be ready for week 1. Well, now August is pretty much over. Let's just call it what it is. And you can't get a straight answer when he's going to practice. And again, no one's mad at OBJ. If he had these injuries before he signed with Miami knew about this stuff, then it's like, that's the frustrating part, especially since we've lost River Craycraft for most of the season. Eric Ezekiel's in a walking boot. It's like the injuries of wide receiver have come fast and furious. Anthony Schwartz is out for the year. That was something else that they announced on Sunday. He hurt his knee, tore a ligament. He's out for the year. You kind of need OBJ now, and he's not there. So hopefully he's back soon. Again, not his fault. If he signed here and he told them about this stuff, and of course he did because he had to go through a physical, they knew about this stuff before he signed. It's not Odell Beckham's fault. So don't take this as me pitting this on Odell Beckham. It's just they need a third wide receiver now, and unfortunately the guy they signed for that role isn't healthy, which they knew prior to signing him. So again, a little frustrating there. Aaron Brewer, Mike McDaniel was asked. Again, he gave another word salad and pretty much didn't say anything. Doesn't seem optimistic I don't think he's going to start the year on PUP. That's the one thing. I think OBJ might be put on PUP here in the next week or so if things don't go the way we all hope. I think there's a chance he could go on PUP and miss the first 4 games. I think that's possible. Well, I mean, he's on PUP, but stay on PUP type of deal, where he has to miss the first month. I don't think Aaron Brewer is going to be placed on PUP. I think Aaron Brewer might not play week 1 or week 2, but I think week 3 or 4, he'll probably be out there playing center. I think that's kind of reading between the lines what we're getting. Look, if the hand can get better in time for week 1 or even week 2, great, he'll be on the field. Now, the week 2 one's tricky because it's on a Thursday night. So my whole thing is, and I stand by this, I know some others don't, if you're not going to play week 1, you're probably not playing week 2 because they don't have time to integrate you into practice when you have a game on a Thursday, because after Sunday, Monday's kind of like an off day normally, but here they'll probably be in at least meetings if they're not doing any work on the field. Tuesday, they're going to do like a run through. Wednesday, probably a light run through. Thursday, you're playing. So they don't have time to put on the pads and do like a real practice between Sunday and Thursday. So whoever's not playing week 1, odds are won't play week 2 with a short turnaround time. So Aaron Brewer, but then they have a little bit of that sort of hidden bye where you get some extra time off before the week 3 game versus Seattle. So if I had to guess, I think Aaron Brewer, you might see him week 3 versus Seattle. But if he plays week 1, that'd be great. We'll have to see. It's a hand injury, and he's a center. And it's a snapping hand. So I believe it's a snapping hand. But either way, it's still not good. So we'll see what goes on with Aaron Brewer there. Now let's talk about this offensive line a little bit. Because Tua Tagovailoa, when he met with the media, was asked a question about his confidence level of the offensive line, specifically the interior of the offensive line. Tua said, and I quote, "Well, brother, I get the ball out fast, so I'm confident with anybody we've got up there. I'll tell you that. I'm confident with anyone we got out there." And well, that's all well and great. And Tua said nothing wrong. I'm not jumping down Tua's back. He didn't throw any of his teammates under the bus. What he said and what his answer was essentially code for, got the same issue as last year. I'll be throwing it out super quick, not because I want to, but because I have to. And that's the problem with the interior of this offensive line. And when you're playing the bad teams like New England this year twice, Arizona, and you're playing those bad teams, it's going to be fine. You're going to run up a lot of points. You're going to win games on the offensive line. You can mask that issue. You can hide that issue. But just like last year, when you play the good teams and when you play in cold weather, that issue gets exposed of the interior of the offensive line, and you lose. We saw it last year with Miami. Miami's offense, number one in the league, put up a ton of points. Yeah, who did they put up the points against? The Giants, the Jets, the Broncos, all the horrible teams, the Panthers. When you played the Eagles, you played the Chiefs twice. When you played the Bills twice, you played the Ravens, you couldn't get to 20 points. You were under 20 points. And that's the issue. It is great that Tua throws it so quick and that the interior of the offensive line can be masked and hidden. But how about the running game? How about what happens if Tua is out for a game or two or three and Skylar Thompson has to play, or whoever the backup is at that point, and he doesn't have the quick release that Tua has? Then what? Your offense just crumbles right before your eyes. And the issue, again, is when you play those good teams who have a good defense, there's going to be plays where Tua just can't throw it so lightning fast because those teams are ready for it, and Tua needs that extra second. That's all, just an extra second or two to make that extra read or do an extra check down to get the ball out, to make a play, a positive play. But he can't because the center and guards are just too bad. So, yes, Tua can sit there at a press conference and say the right thing like he did today. I get the ball out quick. I don't care who's in front of me. And that's great. But if you're trying to win the AFC East, if you're trying to win the Super Bowl, that's not good enough. And, this offseason, this training camp, there's been a lot of analysts, in quotes, air quotes, analysts, and I use that term very loosely, who have claimed that Miami doesn't need a good offensive line to be successful. They were the number one offense last year with a bad offensive line. Don't worry about it. Never worry. We don't win anything, but never worry. And they run to PFF numbers and ESPN next-gen stat numbers, and they spin and weave together some argument and throwing a bunch of numbers against the wall. Read this. This is what they don't need an offensive line. They don't need to spend big money on an offensive line. They're good with it. Mike McDaniel's offense is so good, they don't need it. That's all bullshit, folks, okay? Because we've seen what a poor offensive line gives you in results in this offense. It's the 2023 Miami Dolphins. Beat the bad teams, lose to the good teams, out in round one of the playoffs. Now, we take that 2023 team from last year with those results with a 31st ranked pass block win rate offensive lineman, take out Robert Hunt, take out Connor Williams, and if you're thinking you're going to get a better result, folks, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you, okay? It is comical. Do not pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. The notion that Miami doesn't need, or they didn't need, because I can't say doesn't, it's too late now, that they didn't need to spend big money on the offensive line is a joke. They didn't need to spend $100 million on a guard like Robert Jones. No, of course not. That's too much. But they needed better than Robert Hunt. They needed better than Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg. They could have gave a guy $10 million, okay, or $15 million. They have a proven guard who's got a track record in this league, who can actually block someone and keep your $230 million quarterback standing up and healthy. So, if anyone's out there telling you, that these quote unquote analysts, again, I use the term loosely, they want to spin and push a false narrative to sort of tell you, don't worry about it. It's not a big issue. It's going to be okay. Just know they're pushing a false narrative as a self-coping mechanism to help them sleep at night because it's not reality. We saw reality in 2023, and you're going to see reality in a couple of weeks when they play Jacksonville, then they play the Bills, then they play Seattle, then they play Tennessee. That reality is going to hit you in the face again with this offensive line. So, again, not mad at Tua. Tua said all the right things. Don't know what else he can say. He is a consummate professional, not going to throw a teammate under the bus, not going to throw the organization under the bus. But when he's sitting there laughing, saying, hey, brother, I got to get the ball out quick here, we know what he's saying, reading between the lines. Okay, you don't need to be Scooby-Doo to solve that mystery. You know what he's saying, because if this team falls short of expectations this year, and expectations are AFC East crown, win at least one playoff game, we know it's going to be because the offensive line held them back. And It just is what it is. So it was just kind of funny to see Tua up there answering that question. Like, hey, I don't care who's in front of me. I'm getting rid of the ball quick. Yeah, we know why. You have no choice. Because those guys are going to be on you like a fly on manure. So yeah, that's about the offensive line. We'll see. I don't expect them to make a move here in the next few days. I thought what Omar Kelly said on the podcast with Marissa last week was interesting. That if Aaron Brewer is actually healthy, Jack Driscoll should be the starting right guard over Liam. But it sounds like the staff, this front office loves Liam. So I don't know. Is what it is. We'll see how this plays out. Okay, before I get to the last topic on today's show, a big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. And if you're on Facebook, please be sure you are a part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Audible, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, YouTube. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Hit it, subscribe, so you don't miss an episode. We have shows each and every day this week. I'll have a special interview on Wednesday with a special guest. You're not going to want to miss that out. And because if you hit that subscribe button, when we drop a new show, you're notified on your iPhone, your Android, your tablet, your computer that, hey, new show dropped. Let me check it out. So you want to hit that subscribe button right now. Okay, our old buddy, and I say that sarcastically, Kyle Brandt from the NFL Network is back. He's back at it again. It's the start of the 2024 season, and now you know it's football season when Kyle Brandt is on an outlet just ripping the Miami Dolphins for I don't know what. I mean, again, it's fine that he wants to criticize the Dolphins, but some of the criticisms just go so over the top and just so. It's got so much hyperbole. It's just exhausting to listen to at this point. And before I get into my Kyle Brandt rant, it's not even a rant because I don't even care anymore. But I'm going to talk about this because he said some things I want to dive into. With football season right around the corner, as fans of the Dolphins, I say this every year, and I preach this. You cannot get upset every time you turn on your TV, listen to the radio, listen to a podcast when someone from ESPN, Fox Sports, NFL Network, or whoever criticizes something with the Dolphins. There are fair criticisms of the Miami Dolphins, and, it's fair for some people to bring those up and raise them clearly, okay? It's a football opinion, and as long as it's fair, you cannot let that trigger you where you just fly off the deep end, start calling them names, you send them an angry tweet, and then you bring up their family members and stuff. That's just wrong. You can't let that trigger you because if it's a football opinion, not everyone views football the same way. Smart and reasonable people can view things very, too smart and reasonable people can, one's going to view things one way, one's going to view things the other way. Doesn't make one right or wrong, just means they view the sport differently. And it's okay for someone on TV or radio and a podcast if they don't throw flowers at the Miami Dolphins. They're not a fan of the Dolphins. They're covering all 32 teams. They're not going to know every, small, minor thing with the team, so they might criticize. That's okay. I mean, they haven't won a playoff game in 24 years, the longest streak in the NFL. There is stuff to criticize. And to me, when I hear people like Christopher Mad Dog Russo on ESPN, SiriusXM criticize the Dolphins, it's fair. It's not coming from a place where he's pushing a narrative or he has a personal vendetta out against the owner or the team or the quarterback. He's not attacking them. He just views the NFL one way. He's covered the sport forever. He's in his 60s. He views things one way, and he doesn't have a favorable opinion of the quarterback in Miami or the organization. That's fine. It's genuine. That doesn't bother me. That's just how he views the sport. I can listen to him and not agree and just be like, okay, I kind of see where he's coming from. I don't totally agree. He makes some valid points. I don't agree with all of them, but that's fair. Same thing with like LaShawn McCoy at Fox Sports 1. Same way with Craig Carton at Fox Sports 1. They're not pushing narratives. They're not out there pushing an agenda. They're not just, trying to crowbar the Miami Dolphins in as a topic just to attack them and just to bash them. what is the annoying part with some of these people are the bad faith actors out there who just go above and beyond to push their narrative, push their agenda, crowbar in the Dolphins just so they can take a shot at them. And some of the shots are below the belt. And, Colin Cowherd's kind of on that list. Chris Canty of ESPN's on that list. But the leader of this group, the leader of this motley crew of TV personalities and stuff who do, or on radio who do this, is our old friend Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football. The former MTV Real World reality TV star who turned into a soap opera actor, then became a producer and scriptwriter for the Jim Rome show. Yes, they write scripts on that show. And he somehow parlayed all that into a job on the NFL Network, which he's had forever. And this past weekend, he went on the Bill Simmons podcast and continued his attack on the Dolphins. Kyle always says, and I have the video clip up on our website if you want to read it. Go to DolphinsTalk.com. You can watch the video itself. Kyle goes, I don't hate the Dolphins. I don't hate Tua. I don't hate Mike McDaniel. I don't. But actions speak louder than words. And his actions and his words, really, in this case, are just constantly say otherwise. You might find a clip of Kyle Brandt sort of heaping praise on something with the Dolphins. But for that one, you're going to find 99 of him just going above and beyond with the attacks. Again, he doesn't have to root for the Dolphins. He doesn't have to throw flowers at their feet. They haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. You want to criticize them? There are fair criticisms to be had. But some of this stuff just goes off the deep end. And on the Bill Simmons podcast, Bill Simmons asked him, who, out of all the head coaches in the NFL this year heading into the season, give me your top 5 head coaching storylines. Guys on the hot seat, guys, whatever. Like if you want to say Sean McDermott finally has to beat the Chiefs, get to a Super Bowl, he has to get. That's like a storyline. Maybe somebody who's had like his last leg with a team who might be on the hot seat. Okay, his number 1 head coaching storyline was Mike McDaniel, a third-year head coach. Kyle Brandt said, and I quote, "We are past how charmed we are at your personality." Speaking about Mike McDaniel. Now let's break this down. First off, who's this royal we he speaks of? Who is he speaking on behalf of? This is his opinion and nobody else's. He goes, we are past. Who's this we? Okay, you're one man giving one opinion. Let's not make it sound like you're talking on behalf of all the NFL fans in the NFL universe. You're not. You're not. You're sitting in your basement on a podcast giving your opinion. That's number 1. And then he went on to call Mike McDaniel eccentric, which is fine. I've actually used the word quirky a little bit in describing him, but it's the context and how you use the word. Saying Mike McDaniel, like I do, is not like any other NFL head coach, a little bit quirky, a little bit eccentric out of the box, and it seems to work for him as the players love him. That's not using it as a way to like attack him. The way Kyle Brandt used it was like, oh, he's eccentric. I mean, he's just some guy, a weird guy. It was used as a shot. And again, him being eccentric, what does that have to do with the tea in China, with the price of tea in China? In the NFL, head coaches are judged on wins and losses. Bringing up his personality as eccentric as like a negative thing to attack him on, kind of below the belt. It's kind of like those people and that one guy up in New England whose name I forget right now, who said Mike McDaniel's short and he has no muscles. Players will never respect him. That's what Kyle Brandt's kind of doing, just using the word eccentric. Please, this guy's eccentric. He's nothing. This is only the tip of the iceberg, folks. He kept going. Kyle Brandt then said that Miami's playoff loss to Kansas City last year, and I quote, was one of the worst no-show playoff games in the 21st century. Really? The entire 21st century. I mean, it was -4 with a wind chill of -27. There were fans in the stadium who lost limbs, fingers, toes, and other body parts through a frostbite. He's not going to add that context here. That, there's cold weather games, and then there's that. And, which even the Chiefs said, this is like subhuman here. And he also fails to mention that, and I know every team has injuries, but Miami, for that game, did not have Bradley Chubb, Jaylen Phillips, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard, or Connor Williams, just to name a few. And they were picking up guys on a Tuesday who were starting on a Saturday who hadn't played a game all year. No context. And I know if he was on here with me, which he never will be, nor would he ever want to come on, he would use the excuse, every team has injuries, deal with it. But not that many injuries to that many key players. Again, there's context to be spoken of here, which he will not use and he will not throw in because he's a bad faith actor who's just pushing his personal anti-Dolphins agenda. Again, no one's going to argue that Miami's playoff game last year for Kansas City was great. It wasn't their finest hour. They lost, and it wasn't even really competitive. Everyone gets that. But was it the worst no-show loss of the 21st century? Get the bleep out of here. Not even close. Then, and I'm not going to go too much in depth here because, again, it gets exhausting after a while with this guy. Kyle goes, he questions if Tua Tagovailoa, is he really good? Is he really that good? And then he goes, and then he's got to take a shot at Tyreek Hill. Say, Tyreek Hill only really has 1 or 2 prime years left in his career. Yeah, okay. I guess the back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons is a sign that he's slowing down. He's only had the 2 best statistical seasons of his career the past 2 years. I guess 1 or 2 more years and he's going to be done. The long and short of this is simple. If this was coming from almost anyone except Kyle Brandt, you could take it and say, okay, whatever, just an opinion. But Brandt has this thing about the Dolphins that he never lets an opportunity to go by without taking a shot at them. And some of the shots, like going after Mike McDaniel's personality, are unfair and they are below the belt. And if you don't, and here's the thing you got to remember about Kyle Brandt. Last year, he had to go on the air on Good Morning Football and apologize. Yes, he apologized. Again, the video is up at DolphinsTalk.com. You can watch it with your own 2 eyes. He had to go on the air and apologize for comments he made against the Dolphins and admit he attributed quotes to Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins players that they never said. Kyle Brandt last year said that Miami Dolphins players and coaches in September last season went around saying they revolutionized NFL offenses and that Tua was bragging about throwing a no-look pass. And they were also bragging about using this new pre-snap motion. Here's the thing. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. It never happened. No Dolphins player, no Dolphins coach, Mike McDaniel, they never said it. They never said it. What most people thought Kyle meant was Sean McDermott in the week Miami played the Bills, before the Bills put up like 50 points on them, said that when he was talking about the Dolphins in the lead up to that game, that the Miami Dolphins offense was almost revolutionary. Sean McDermott said it. Nobody on the Dolphins said it. But Kyle Brandt in his apology, that's what most people thought. Oh, he must have just confused who said what. No. Kyle Brandt in his apology said that he was just upset that his co-host on Good Morning Football were heaping so much praise on the Dolphins that he was just sick of hearing it. So he wanted to pour cold water on it. So he just attributed quotes that nobody said to Dolphins players to make them look bad. Does that sound like normal behavior for anyone? My coworkers are praising the Dolphins. I don't like the Dolphins. I'm just going to make stuff up about them. And now, weeks later, I got to go on there and apologize about it because I got caught lying, essentially. Again, I don't care if a TV talking head believes in the Dolphins, hates the Dolphins, loves the Dolphins. They can believe anything they want. Yeah. Like I said, they haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. There's a lot to criticize from the owner down to the last man on the roster. But what Brandt does, and he went to Princeton and he knows he's doing this, he's not a total idiot, is he goes so over the top with the critique, so over the top with the criticism that he exposes himself for pushing an agenda, which is why nobody can take him seriously, which is why ESPN canceled his podcast a few years back. And as part of the reason that Good Morning Football the past few years has had terrible ratings, it was the second lowest rated show on the entire network last year, and it's lucky to crack 100,000 viewers most week. Don't believe me? Also have the graphic up on our website. Kyle Brandt is a bad faith actor. And when he says stuff like this, he's not doing it for clicks. He's doing it because he has a strong, I hate to use the word hatred, but he has strong feelings towards the Miami Dolphins that run deep. And even when his co-host gave the Dolphins some kudos in September for a fast start, it bothered him so much, he felt the need to lie and attribute quotes that they never said to them to paint them in a bad light. Folks, that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff right there. Kyle Brandt's a weird dude, but again, it's tough to take him seriously on any level. God bless him. He's made a living at this stuff, going from MTV to soap operas to Jim Rome to now the NFL Network. He's probably made a nice living for himself. God bless him. But Kyle Brandt is everything wrong with sports journalism in 2024. It's about being loud, not being correct, and it's about creating a false narrative, coming out against it, and spreading misinformation to the masses. Kyle has the art form mastered. And Kyle's allowed to dislike the Dolphins, pick against the Dolphins, not believe in Tua, not believe in McDaniel. But again, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining and say, like he even said at the end of the Bill Simmons podcast, we're all rooting for Mike McDaniel. No, you're not. So don't say we all, just like the other thing. We're all past your personality and charm. No, you might be. So don't say that you're rooting for them because you're just waiting for them for the next time they slip up or the next time they lose for you just to go on whatever outlet and say, I told you so. That's what you're doing, Kyle Brandt. Everyone can see through it. But again, as I'm saying, with the season about to start up, you're going to see a lot of this stuff from some people. Most of it's in good faith. Like I said, Chris Russo, Craig Carton, LaShawn McCoy, James Jones, the guys on Fox Sports, 90% of it's in good faith. And if they have a football opinion about the Dolphins that you don't agree with or I don't agree with, that's cool. I listen. It's fine. It's just someone else with another point of view. But when you see this guy who clearly ain't all there upstairs, okay? Just because you went to Princeton, don't make him, a super genius, as they say. Something wrong with this dude. There's something wrong with that guy. And there's something wrong with Brandt because what he said about the Dolphins, your worst no-show playoff loss in the 21st century, that, speaking of this we, who's this we? Again, who are you speaking on behalf of? You're just one slob with an opinion. No, you're not speaking on behalf of anyone about, we are past how charmed we are at Mike McDaniel's personality. Get out of here. You want to criticize Mike McDaniel for having his teams collapse after an 8-3 start and a 9-3 start? Go for it. It's fair. Leave his personality out of it. That's nothing to do with anything. All right, that's all for today's show. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at DolphinsTalk. And we'll have more shows, like I said, later this week. Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk for all the latest Miami Dolphins. For Patreon, you're going to get the bonus shows, the bonus content, and all that good stuff. So check that out there. Everyone have a great Monday evening. Have a great Tuesday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.